What is up, guys? It's me, John Avenger, once again, and welcome to another sequel prequel month. And this is a big one, man. This is one of the biggest sequels ever made. It's not a Marvel movie, it's a DC movie, and I know a lot of people. I'm going to get flack for some of the things I say, but hey, there's two sides to every coin. And this movie, I think it's a great film, but it's not my favorite comic book movie of all time. That would be the first Avengers movie right there, because that movie gave me the thrill of a lifetime in the theater. This was great, but the actor that was in this didn't live to see it, and it's a shame. And we haven't had a experience like that since that happened. But anyway, it's one of the biggest movies of all time. It's definitely the most talked about movie of all time in the last 10 years, and that is the one and only The Dark Knight. Yep. I have this movie because I don't hate this movie. I know some people say the movie is boring. Some people say the film is overrated. I'm one of those people that say it's overrated only because it just gets way too much praise. I mean, the movie gets a 9 on IMDb, not an 8.6 or an 8.2, a freaking 9. It's considered one of the top 10 biggest movies on IMDb. I would say that's because of young people that think that this movie is the greatest thing ever. That they said, "Oh, it's like it's our Citizen Kane." I'm like, it's a great movie, but it's not the top 10 favorite of all time. Not even close. It's not even my top five favorite superhero movies or even Batman movies. But it's a great film, and I'm going to give my pros and cons why I don't think it's it's not my favorite of all time, but it does deserve most of the accolades it gets. Pros, it's got a great cast. I think Christian Bale, he's a decent Bruce Wayne. He's not as good as Michael Keaton, but he does a fair. His acting is good. It's not like it's terrible. When he's Batman, he looks good in the suit, but I think his voice is just laughable. I know a lot of people said that. This voice like this, it's a laughable voice. I cannot take a movie that gets a 9 should not have an actor change his voice like that, because that didn't happen in Civil War or the first Avengers or the second Avengers or even Batman '89. If you want to stick to DC, uh, Michael Keaton didn't do that in Batman. Val Kilmer barely did that in Batman Forever. Even Ben Affleck, while he did it, it was a voice changer. Here, Nolan told him to sound like this, and it's laughable. I still laugh my ass off hearing it. Second, Heath Ledger as the Joker is phenomenal. He's the reason to watch this movie. He did a stellar job. It sucks that he's no longer with us. He couldn't sleep because he was taking drugs, trying to stay awake to play the Joker. It's a performance we will never see again. I wanted to see more from Jared Leto, but they screwed him over and fucked him in the ass. And Suicide Squad, he got nothing from that, and that sucks. But Ledger's performance is stellar. It's creepy. It's scary. His why so serious. His voice is menacing. His laugh is menacing. He's just as good as freaking what's his face, Jack Nicholson. I think him and Nicholson are on par. I'm not going to say which one is better over the other because Nicholson is like the live, the more bubbly Joker, and this is the more creepy Joker that you see in your nightmares. He's great in the film. His look, his demeanor. He's a great villain. One villain was enough for this movie. That's another thing I'll get to when I get to the cons. The film looks great. Nolan knows how to shoot a film. The special effects look fantastic. The action scenes when they're there, they're good. And the rest of the cast. Aaron Eckhart's good as Harvey Dent. Michael Caine is great. Maggie Gyllenhaal is good. What's it? Morgan Freeman is always great. I mean, he has a great voice. Uh, Gary Oldman, he's a good Jim Gordon, but I do prefer the one in Gotham on TV. And the rest of the cast, yeah. Uh, there's some other people in the cast, so it's a big cast. So I don't want to go through everybody, but yeah, the pros, like I said, looks great. It's got a great cast. It is well written. I could say that for the most part, and they treat the source material seriously. But the cons are there are plenty. I'm not gonna say this movie is perfect. One, this movie is way too long. I'm sorry. I know Parker's gonna disagree with me, but dude, the movie's 2.5 hours. There are a lot of subplots that don't involve Batman or the Joker that you could have cut out entirely. You didn't need the stuff in Hong Kong that feels like it's 30 minutes. You didn't need the subplot with Jim Gordon's family that was just forced in there. And also, you didn't need Two Face. You could have had Harvey Dent change into Two Face at the end of the film to set up the third film. That would have set up another villain instead of putting Bane. Just my opinion, because uh, you had this great villain and you just use him in the last 20 or 30 minutes, and it feels forced. I like Aaron Eckhart's performance as Harvey Dent, but you didn't need to change him into Two Face out of nowhere. This movie should have had one villain. It would have made the movie only 2 hours, but at 2.5 hours, it feels way too long. Nolan's films, that's the problem with all of his Batman movies. They feel like they're just padded out just to stretch out the running time. While this is a great sequel to Batman Begins, it has more action, and it's more of a crime drama than an action movie. I'm going to say that right now. People label this as an action movie. It's a crime drama with Batman and the Joker in it. It's too long. 153 minutes. It feels like an eternity. Civil War was 2 hours and 20 minutes, and I didn't feel it at all. Why? Because it had a great pacing. It didn't have 30 minutes of filler that they threw in there just for the sake of it. And while that was flawed, Civil War, it had a dark tone, but it worked and it just flowed better. Here, it just drags at some parts, and I really wish it didn't. But that's one of the cons. Another is, like I said, besides the timeline, some things don't make sense in the movie. Like why would Joker want to blow up to? Why the hell should Batman care about these boats that are being destroyed? I mean, and the fact that the Joker is just fibbing with them. No boats blow up, and then at the end, Joker should have died at the end of this movie. The fact that Batman just drops him, he falls, and then he just saves him, I like that didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, Joker should have died. Also, Batman should have kicked the Joker's ass a lot more in this movie. Half of the time in this movie, it seems like Joker's just kicking his ass and hitting him back and forth, and it's like Nolan or no David S. Goyer. I'm not gonna blame Nolan. David S. Goyer, you should have wrote Batman punches the Joker out, knocks him out, just knocks him to pieces. Look at the Dark Knight Returns. That's animated, and the Joker gets his ass kicked by Batman. That's how you do it. And I love the Joker as a villain, but seeing him kicking Batman's ass, it's a one-sided fight that nobody wants to see. That's another con I have. Another is that, the dark tone. It works for this movie. It does not work with Superman. It doesn't work with Spider-Man. It doesn't work for Fan Four Stick. This movie and The Dark Knight Rises started this bad trend that every superhero movie has to be dark. Like I said before, that movie did not need to be dark to be awesome, and that movie made more than The Dark Knight. Yeah, I know. Oh, I'm a blind fanboy. I enjoy this film. If I didn't, I would not have him in my collection. But the film has problems. People don't want to acknowledge the problems. They say it's a masterpiece. It's the greatest thing ever made. It's a great movie. I said it. I saw this in the theater and I had a great time. But the fact that we lost Heath Ledger and the fact that people are praising it up the ass, calling it the greatest movie, like one of the greatest films ever made. Have they seen the '89 Batman film from Tim Burton, or Batman Returns, or The Dark Knight Returns, or even the '60s show, which I loved that show and I loved the movie as well because I grew up watching it. This I saw when I was an adult and I still am, and it's a good movie. I'm not going to say it's bad. I'm never going to say that. With this or Batman Begins and even The Dark Knight Rises, while it has a ton of problems, it's not the piece of garbage that people make it out to be. I think Amazing Spider-Man is worse. But The Dark Knight, the story is fine. I'm not going to say the story's horrible. It's just there's way too many subplots. You needed Batman, the Joker, and some of the side characters like Jim Gordon, Alfred, and what you call it, and Rachel because she was in the first film. Things that are connected to these characters. You don't need that Spanish cop. You don't need Jim Gordon's family. You don't need any of that. You could have saved that for another movie. That's the problem with DC. They want to put 15 billion things into one movie. That's why people bitched about BVS and Suicide Squad and freaking what they're probably going to do in the Justice League. One thing at a time. You don't need to overstuff a movie. It just feels bloated, and it feels like another con I have with this is that there's way too much talking. Like you can have awesome dialogue. There is good dialogue in this movie. Why so serious? And every day it doesn't. He doesn't. People will die. This city just showed you that it's full of people ready to believe in good. I get it, but there is way too much dialogue. There's some scenes that are so talky. I'm like, is something gonna happen? Because really, I like the conversation, but I swear, half of Alfred's dialogue, Michael Caine, who's great in the film, it's a bunch of long speeches, and I'm like, you know why I loved the first Avengers? Even though there was talking, it was interesting. It flowed with the story. And some in this movie, there's some dialogue that is just there to fill time. The guys in Hong Kong, like I said, talkie, talkie, talkie. A cameo with freaking with the scarecrow, talkie, talkie, talkie. The conversation with Batman and Joker is talkie. That's good. But then there's another scene with talking in the hospital. Then there's this and that. Too much talking. Give me action. Stop turning Batman into freaking crime dramas. We don't need that. We already got that with this trilogy. We don't need it for BVS. In his solo Batman movie, Ben Affleck, I want him to kick ass. I don't want to hear him talking for an hour and a half. Give me what I want. This movie did give me something that I wanted. Was it better than Batman Begins? Yes. The action is definitely better shot, but it's a mix. It's got its problems. Like I said, don't talk so much. Give me more action. Give me a better pacing. Give me a movie. This is not a rant. I do enjoy this film. I think it's awesome, but there are problems. People got to stop saying that this movie's perfect and nothing can touch it. And I'm like, pacing, the running time. You could have cut out some of these things, put it for deleted scenes, or save it for another movie. But anyway, I don't hate The Dark Knight. I think it's a good film. It is a really good film. I would give it an 8 out of 10. Not a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 because I do have my issues, even when I saw it in the theater. There's just way too many things happening in the film. And, you could have cut a lot out. And the film, it looks great, but, Nolan, he wasn't the wrong guy for the job. I thought he brought the darkness to Batman, but stop with the freaking, making the movies way too long. I mean, what's Ben Affleck's movie going to be? 3.5 hours? But anyway, it does have a kick-ass villain, and when they dedicated in Heath Ledger's memory, that was great. That I love. That I will never complain about. But it is an overrated movie. That it's not the worst. It's not the greatest thing ever. It's a great movie that has flaws. So does Civil War. I'm not going to defend everything in that too. Like the shaky cam in that was inexcusable, and the villain sucked, and you killed off one villain in 10 seconds. So that was the problems I have with that. But the pacing was better. This, yes, it says here, prepare to be wild. In some cases, hell yes, the action scenes. Some of the scenes with Batman and the Joker together, awesome. But the padding is there, and I'm not going to defend that. But anyway, The Dark Knight, I know I'm going to get some flack for that, but I get Nolan's perspective on Batman. I get it. I love Batman. He's my favorite DC hero. I will always love Batman, no matter what they give. I would take this over Batman and Robin because at least it's not treated as a joke. It's done serious and it works, but there are some aspects that don't work for me, and I said it here without covering it because a padded out movie is still a padded out movie. I love Lord of the Rings, all of the films, but the third movie feels like an eternity to get to the ending. But I'm going to review those eventually if when I get them. But anyway, that's my review of The Dark Knight. Great film, but it does have its fair share of flaws. Excuse me, I'm really tired, so if I talk a little disoriented, it's not my fault. But I do enjoy The Dark Knight. I don't hate it. I'm not a Marvel fanboy that says, no, fuck this movie. No, I will never say that. Because the theater experience alone was a memory I will never forget. But I have seen better. That's for sure. Great comic book movie, but it's flawed and people need to know what I don't like in it, and I'm not going to hide that. But there it is. That's The Dark Knight. This is the 2 disc special edition of The Dark Knight. And I'm not going to say never see this movie. See it for yourself and make your own call. Don't listen to critics. Half of them are full of shit. At least I wasn't the person that said, if you don't like this movie, damn you and do death threats. No, that's not why I'm here. I'm here to entertain people here on YouTube. I'm not here to condemn anybody. But anyway, guys, on a lighter note, thanks for watching my video of review of the flawed yet entertaining Dark Knight. Was it entertaining? Yes. So that's why I keep it. Anyway, thanks for watching, liking, subscribing, commenting. I hope I don't get like 15 billion thumbs down. I'm just giving my opinion. That's all. I'm not paid to trash the movie. I'm not paid to, praise the movie to high heaven. I'm giving my own honest opinions on The Dark Knight. that's how I feel. So take that for what you will, and I will see you in the next one, and it will be a less praised film, I assure you. Later, guys.